Chapter 10, in which a witch finds a door and a memory too. Zan turned her back on the swamp and followed the trail up the slope toward the crater where the volcano had opened its face to the sky so long ago. The trail had been fashioned with large flat rocks inlaid into the ground and fitted so close to one another that the seam between them could barely let in a piece of paper. It had been years since Zan last walked this trail. Centuries, really. She shivered. Everything looked so different, and yet not. There had been a circle of stones in the courtyard of the castle once upon a time. They had surrounded the central older tower like sentinels, and the castle had wrapped around the whole of it like a snake eating its tail. But the tower was gone now, though Zan had no idea where, and the castle was rubble, and the stones had been toppled by the volcano, or swallowed up by the earthquake, or crumbled by fire and water and time. Now there was only one, and it was difficult to find. Tall grasses surrounded it like a thick curtain, and ivy clung to its face. Zan spent well over half a day just trying to find it, and once she did, it was a full hour of hard labor just to dislodge the lattice of persistent ivy. When she got down to the stone itself, she was disappointed. There were words carved into the flat of the stone, a simple message on each side. Zosimos himself had carved it long ago. He had carved it for her when she was still a child. "Don't forget," it said on one side of the stone. "I mean it," it said on the other. "Don't forget what? You mean what, Zosimos?" She wasn't sure, despite the spottiness of her memories. One thing she did remember was his tendency toward the obscure, and his assumption that because vague words and insinuations were clear enough for him, they must be perfectly comprehensible to all. And after all these years, Zan remembered how annoying she had found it then. "Confound that man," she said. She approached the stone and leaned her forehead against the deeply carved words, as if the stone might be Zosimos himself. "Oh, Zosimos," she said, feeling a surge of emotion that she hadn't felt in nearly 5 centuries. "I'm sorry, I've forgotten. I didn't mean to, but..." The surge of magic hit her like a falling boulder, knocking her backward. She landed with a thud on her creaking hips. She stared at the stone, open-mouthed. "The stone isn't magicked," she thought to herself. "Of course." And she looked up at the stone just as a seam appeared down the middle and the 2 sides swung inward like great stone doors. Not like stone doors, Zan thought. They are stone doors. The shape of the stone still stood like a doorway against the blue sky, but the entrance itself opened into a very dim corridor where a set of stone steps disappeared into the dark. And in a flash, Zan remembered that day. She was 13 years old and terribly impressed with her own witchy cleverness, and her teacher, once so strong and powerful, was fading by the day. "Be careful of your sorrow," he had said. He was so old then, impossibly old. He was all angles and bones and papery skin, like a cricket. "Your sorrow is dangerous. Don't forget that she is still about." And so Zan had swallowed her sorrow, and her memories too. She buried both so deep that she would never find them. Or so she thought.